A very good evening to you and welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Wednesday night. Now, I know I don't normally do this stuff on a Wednesday night, but the guest I've got on, I've been sort of asking him for God knows how long now. And he messaged me and he went, "How about Wednesday night?" And I went, "Yeah, all right." So that's why I'm doing it. So it's a bit impromptu. I don't know how many people are going to be watching, but I'm sure people will catch up with it. And he doesn't really take much of an introduction, does he? And I'll bring him on now. Good evening, Gio. How are you, mate?
I am good. Thanks, Del. Pleasure to be on. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for coming on. It's been some time, but I'm glad we got you on, mate. We're going to talk about everything West Ham, of course, and the things that are happening in general. I know things are sort of dominated by the Declan Rice story, but there are other things happening as well. So, really going to pick your brains and see, where you're, what you think about the sort of the stories that are about. Shall we pick the first one that's come out very recently, and that's our ban. I don't know if you heard that, but we've been banned primarily for 2 games, but one of those bans is suspended. When we kick off our our 3rd year in a row in Europe. How do you feel about that? Was it to come? Was it obvious?
UEFA have to do something, don't they? They've got to be seen to be doing something. If they didn't take a stance like this, they're almost accepting it. I think the issue is when you look at the grand scheme of bans from UEFA and you start comparing it to other cases, that's when you might feel it's a little bit harsh, but it is what it is, kind of thing. Bit harsh for those fans that do travel to the games, that do go to the away European games, because there is a core that go to every single one of them. They're obviously going to miss out. So I feel for them, really. But it's expected. To be honest with you, it could be a bit harsher if you said to me a 1-game ban and a 60,000 fine or whatever it was. It's a slap on the wrist for West Ham, really. Yeah. But we still won the European Cup at the end of it, Stel, so we'll take it.
Well, people are mocking this, aren't they, Gio? I forgot to mention, I know a lot of people know you, but do mention your channel, mate. So
Hammerschat. YouTube, Google it, Hammerschat. We're good.
Thank you. I'm with you. I think it could have been worse. And I know a lot of people are asking, well, what about the Alkmaar situation? And they haven't been, nothing's happened to them yet. But from what I've heard, that's a very special kind of situation. And there's a proper investigation going on. They may get a little bit more than just a little ban and a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, I would expect so. I would expect Alkmaar to get a fiercer ban. They have to really. The amount of evidence as well to showcase how those Alkmaar fans got into that particular part of the stadium as well. It's incriminating, really. There's no denying it. You can see the footage of the fans shaking the barrier for a long time, and there was no resistance whatsoever from police or stewards to prevent it. Yeah. Then they got in, and then there was still very little resistance. And, I think I've got a feeling West Ham might end up getting a little bit of disciplinary for that, but it won't be the fans, obviously. I think it'll be the players themselves. I wonder if 1 or 2 of our players might find themselves getting a little bit of a telling off from UEFA because...
A bit harsh? If that happens?
Yeah, I think context is important. Yeah, I think context is important. Their families were being attacked. And I think if you go to defend your family from getting attacked, I think you can let that slide. I'd be disappointed if they took action. But at the same time, if they don't, they're then allowing, you're basically saying you can physically assault fans, essentially. So it's a difficult one. And like you said, why the investigation's taken a while. Because when the cup throwing happened in the final, UEFA would have picked up their notebook and went, well, here's the standard discipline that we hand out. Let's just hand that out. But with the Alkmaar one, it's a very one-off case, which they're going to have to look at. And I just hope there's no further action to West Ham for that.
Yeah, no, agreed. So those people that are writing, what about Alkmaar? I've seen it on Twitter and on Facebook. It will happen, and I think it'll be, as you've said, it'll be investigated far more thoroughly, and they will get. I'm kind of thinking. I mean, not that I care much, for Alkmaar, but I'm kind of thinking they could get, could they be kicked out of Europe for this if they're back in it or anything, or would that be too extreme? I mean, what they did was extreme. So
I'd be surprised. I'd imagine they might get a couple of games behind closed doors, like the entire home section closed off for a couple of games or something, which would be an extreme punishment, given the lack of revenue, etc., it then costs Alkmaar then play that game at a loss to the club because there's no ticket sales and stuff. But it'll be interesting enough to see. But I'm a bit like you. I'm not really that arsed about Alkmaar. It's more about what happens to West Ham.
Yeah. So let's move on to West Ham. And of course, how long is this story gonna go on for? But we've got to talk about Declan Rice, haven't we? And the 2 bids that came in from Arsenal. Look, he's going, isn't he? We know that. There's very little chance that he's going to stay, unless, of course, we don't get a bid that's satisfactory, and then by default he ends up staying. Or I can't see that. But I mean, are we clutching if we think that?
It's the domino effect of what rumours you believe, though, isn't it? Yeah. So if we step away from the Rice one to some extent, and there is that rumour that basically all we've got to spend this summer is the monies that we raise through player sales. So if that is the case, I think the argument to sell Declan Rice is strong, because if we were to retain Declan, we go into next season with the same squad we've got currently, which is the same squad as we had, minus Manuel Lanzini.
Yeah,
I'm not keen on that still. I'm not keen on that one. So I don't know. I feel like West Ham's in a bit of a lose-lose situation here. We either lose our captain and our best player, or we go into next season with the same squad with no improvements. And that's obviously depending on you believing the reports that we have no money to spend, which I have to be honest with you, I do believe it. I do believe that our net spend will be close to nil, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, I like you, I've been asking around, and from what I understand, we may have about 25 to 30 million pounds if we don't sell Rice. But then I was told in the same breath, he's not the only player that we're looking to sell or could go. Yeah. Should I say? And I know people are going to be unhappy about it, but financial fair play does come into this season, doesn't it? I mean, we're on a bit of a sticky wicket on this one. And my understanding is it's because we're still in Europe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the Premier League's a bit more lenient,
whereas Europe is, they're going to be a bit more stringent on our spending. But there are other players that people are saying that we could get money for. Of course, the next big one is Scamacca. Well, there is another one in a moment, but Scamacca. I mean, talking about. Well, there's an awful lot of talk about him going out on loan, but we know that's not what West Ham wants. We know that if he goes, we want as near as damn what we paid for it. I mean, of the 3 strikers, Gio, I know we've heard all this stuff and what Antonio came out with, which was rather sort of ill-timed, but it wasn't incorrect what he said about, him being the only striker that can play Moyes' system. Of the 3 that we've currently got, who would you prefer to see go and who would you prefer to keep, regardless of what value we get for them?
The prefer to go would be Danny Ings. But there's pros and cons. You can make an argument for them all, can't you? Because who's most likely to succeed next season? It's still Mikel Antonio, unfortunately. Antonio is still the player most likely to succeed. Who do I want to succeed the most? Well, Gianluca Scamacca. Who's the best striker? Gianluca Scamacca. It's a difficult one. I don't think there's any obvious answer here, but we're in a difficult situation because in the last 12 months, we've signed 2 strikers and neither of them really fit what we're trying to do. At the end of the season, I know Scamacca was injured, but even if Scamacca was available, I'm pretty certain Antonio would have been the striker that started in Prague. So we've gone and spent 50 million on 2 strikers in 12 months, and we're playing Antonio up front, who was trying to get out the club in January. He was doing everything he could to try and leave, and that's the guy we were relying on. Now, he did his business. He did his job. He's played a big part in us staying up and then winning the Conference League. I don't want to be relying on him next season, though. We cannot. I think we've already gambled, not just on Antonio's fitness and his injuries and stuff. And he's done really well. I've got a lot of time for Antonio. And, in January, I understand why he wanted to leave West Ham. He's been second fiddle to Scamacca. Then we go get Danny Ings. And I get why Antonio wanted to leave. He didn't. I feel like he rolled his sleeves up and got on with it from February onwards. He said, right, I'm a West Ham player. I'm going to do my bit. And I thought he was trying hard. But we gambled Antonio was going to do that. By the end of January, Were we confident Antonio was going to perform like that and the attitude was going to be like that? The people at the club would know far more than we do because they work with him every day. But from the attitude he displays on the podcast, sometimes I'd be inclined to be a bit hesitant to say that he would give 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I get the impression he still wants out and he still wants to leave this summer. I understand why he does. So let him go. And if we're relying on Antonio in September, we've done something wrong in this transfer window.
I'm with you. I'm with you on this, and I'm with you on the whole Scamacca thing. I guess it's more hope, isn't it, than reality that we want him to come good. And a part of me says, it's possible. It's possible, but we know that the problem is having to change our style of play in order to accommodate him. We know that because he's never going to be an Antonio type of player.
No.
And I'm with you. Reading what or hearing what Antonio's been saying. And from what I believe, he's pushing for that last big pay deal, that last big contract. And if he isn't going to get it from West Ham, maybe an extension plus another 20 grand a week, he'll probably look for it elsewhere. And I just wonder how disruptive that is going to be, to us. And you're absolutely right. 33 years of age, he's done the business for us. But you're right. If we're relying on him next season, we could have quite a bad season, couldn't we? I mean, a lot of people are talking about Mbama and him coming through, and I love him. I think he's fantastic. He's a breath of fresh air, and I don't know what will happen to Mbama. I keep saying I think he might go out on loan next season to get that 1 year's experience, but that's still reliant then on Antonio. So sort of going back to the point, we could be looking at some players moving on. Let's say, for argument's sake, Scamacca, 30 mil. Let's say, who else have we got? Maybe Danny Ings, I don't know, 7 or 8 mil. I hear Ben Johnson is likely to be leaving this summer as well. Maybe another 7 or 8 million. You're kind of building up, you could get maybe 50 mil, give or take. And if the club throw in, say, 20, we might have about 70 million if we don't sell Rice. But then we're in a better position, aren't we, if we don't sell Rice? Because we don't really want him to go.
No.
Or do we?
No, we don't. At the end of the day, he's our best player, and we don't. There's some things we don't know about yet, and the biggest question is how much will Declan leaving impact us? And we all know it's going to be big, but we only finished 14th, and if you throw in a big impact on that, that puts you right back into the relegation zone, is possibly. And it terrifies me still, because when we played Leicester at the end of the season, although Rice was on the pitch, Rice was not playing the Declan Rice way. Understandably, we had the final, and the midfield was so passive and lethargic. And I thought, this is almost like a glimpse of West Ham without Declan Rice in there, and I absolutely hated it. It gave me the fear, quite frankly. Because we haven't seen West Ham without Declan Rice, because he's ever present. He doesn't get injured. He's always available. So when Declan Rice doesn't play, it's through choice. It's because we've decided to rest him. He's usually on the bench just in case things go tits up. But we've not seen us go 6, 7, 8 games in a row without Declan. It's not happened. And it scares the living daylights out of me because he's that good.
Let me ask you this in a different way then. Because we've become so reliant on Declan to be our midfield pivot.
Yeah.
Might his departure, I mean, we clearly will replace him in some way with a different player, a different type of player. What Declan has wanted to do over the last couple of seasons is to be almost that box-to-box midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
He no longer wants to be the defensive midfielder. He wants to be able to demonstrate his skills further up the field, etc., etc. Might it not, and I'm playing devil's advocate, benefit us if we went for another defensive, someone who will just sit as a pivot? Will that not give the encouragement to the likes of whoever plays in midfield, Paqueta, Souček, Fornals, etc., to be able to venture more forward, be a little bit more forward thinking, because they know we're going to have a player who's going to be a proper defensive midfielder rather than what Declan has wanted to do?
Possibly. I think there's always winners and losers in every situation, and 1 or 2 players may benefit. But I would argue that Paqueta benefits from Declan Rice being behind him. Paqueta, let's be honest with you. Paqueta is a lazy bugger at times. Right, I've seen games when Paqueta's just strolling about, and I wouldn't say he looks disinterested, but he's conserving his energy. He's not putting in a shift defensively, and I don't mind that because Souček and Rice are that good defensively. He doesn't need to get back. He knows he's got 2 players back there. They're disciplined. They're organised. They've got a really good partnership out of possession. Souček and Rice. Paqueta can rely on them too. Taking Rice out and putting someone else in there, that worries me because you don't know if it will work. And can Souček get away with playing next to somebody that doesn't grab the game by the scruff of the neck like Declan Rice does? Again, I'm not too sure. This is why there's so many questions. One player leaving, and I don't think any other player in our team can pose this much worries, because if we were to sell Kurt Zuma, that's fine. Thilo Kehrer comes in, we continue as normal. We sell Antonio, right, okay, might need to change how we do it in the final third of the pitch, but your defence remains the same. With Declan Rice leaving, your defence is probably going to suffer, your midfield's going to suffer, your attack's going to suffer. The rest, the ripple effect throughout the 11 of not having Declan Rice is going to be enormous. And we tried to transition, according to the manager and various players and the sporting director, we tried to transition this season and we couldn't do it. And that was with Declan Rice. That was with picking who we wanted to buy with 100. We had 180 million to do this, and we couldn't manage it.
Yeah.
How the hell are we going to transition now when we've got less money? The one world-class player we've got's gone now. The captain's gone now. How are we going to do it? Because we're going to need some form of transition without Declan Rice. I'm seriously worried about it. I'm not looking forward to it at all.
Right. I mean, that's an interesting perspective, and I didn't think about what we were trying. Ironically, you're right, because we were trying to get a Declan replacement. The Onana deal and stuff like that. I mean, we know Declan's unique. We know Declan is going to add value to any team he goes to, and we know that it's going to be a hard act to follow. But I kind of suggested a few weeks ago that we're no longer we should no longer be a one-man team. We do have quality players in our team. We've got Bowen, we've got Paqueta. The way he's performed in the latter half of this. I mean, if there's anything I'm looking forward to is to see what performances he puts in next season. Now that he's won something, with us, and I kind of suggested, we shouldn't be that one-man team. But I totally get what you're saying, because Declan Rice has been so pivotal. But I want to try and, I get it, but I want to try and have that positivity and thinking.
Oh, Stell, it's a massive opportunity for the club. If the club get this right, we can move forward.
Yeah.
If we can, but that comes down to player recruitment. That comes down to spending the money correctly, bringing in the right players. And because when's the next time we're ever going to see West Ham sell a player for 100 million? It could be a long way off. This is a really good opportunity that we're a way to sell a player that we paid nothing for, sell him for 100 million. And we've known about it for a long time. We've had 2-3 years to prepare for this, West Ham. David Moyes has been the manager for 3 years now. He's had enough time to prepare for this. There's no excuses. There is absolutely none. There's no excuses whatsoever for West Ham not to have a plan in the event of a sale of Declan Rice. Done correctly, we can benefit from the sale. My worry is still, I don't have confidence in us doing that. Now, the incoming director of football, I'm hoping, could be a bit of an answer to that, which would dismiss all the transfer rumours that we've had so far and show them up for being rubbish. But I am praying that the director of football is coming with a little black book with some answers in there, because...
I mean, I'm going to get onto him in a moment, because there's one other player that I want to speak of, and Vinay has just brought the name up, and that, of course, we heard today that apparently Newcastle are looking at potentially bidding for Lucas Paqueta. It doesn't come as any surprise, does it? I mean, is he the next big value player that we've got in our squad once Declan goes? By a margin, I would expect.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if I believe it still. I get it. I get the link. Bruno, Joelinton, Paqueta, the Brazilian 3 for Newcastle. I get it. But what do we do know? What do we do know is that Newcastle are in pursuit of Tonali at the minute. They're trying to get a centre midfielder over the line. And I think this is just rumours to possibly encourage the sale to Newcastle. Newcastle have got a lot of money, but they're not stupid, and they've said we will spend money, but we value players, and if we're not paying over that value for them, and they've proven that. And I think, listen, I'll give Sullivan a lot of stick, but one thing I don't think Sullivan would do is sell Rice and Paqueta in the same way. It's just suicide. He just won't do it. Rice has got us in a corner a little bit, not completely, in a little bit. Rice is able to, and do you know something? I believe there's a gentleman's agreement. I don't think Rice is forcing a move. I don't think we're forcing him out. I think there's just been an agreement between club and player that he sticks around for another season or whatever, and then we sell him. I think it's as simple as that. And you know something? I'm not against it. I don't mind it at all. Yep. And if that has happened, I think it's important the club stick to that and honour it. Otherwise, whenever we go to do a gentleman's agreement with any other player in the squad, they're going to say, "I'll do one, mate. I've seen what your words were. Tosh all. I'm not agreeing to anything."
Did you kind of hope, though, however, that given what has happened, you know, the fact that we've won a competition, we're back in Europe again, did you kind of hope that maybe they'd get round the table and maybe sit and talk about maybe extending his contract by another year?
Yeah,
you know,
I think
let's have another year and.
In a dream world style, of course, but I never believed it. Declan Rice doesn't want to win the Conference League. He doesn't want to win the Carabao Cup. He doesn't want to even the Europa League. I don't think. I think he'd like to win it. He's got eyes on bigger prizes, and that's the Premier League and the Champions League. Now, whether I think he'll win them going to Arsenal is a different question altogether.
Yeah,
but I think his ambitions are greater than what West Ham can offer him. Unfortunately, I accepted it a long time ago, and I will never, ever, ever slag a player off for wanting to win trophies and medals. That's who we should be. We should be signing players with that attitude, and that's why I'm never. I feel like I'm in the minority sometimes, Stella. I don't mind selling players. If anything, I think we should be better at selling players. I'm
with you.
I don't get it. I don't get why some people get offended when players want to leave West Ham for whatever for money. Fine, we're not going to offer them shed loads. Go somewhere else. Oh, we want to move to a bigger. Remember when we signed for Nilson Fernandez? One of the first things he said was, "Well, I'm going to be at West Ham for now. Then I'm going to move to like a bigger club." And I loved that. I thought, well, brilliant, because if you're going to earn a move to a Champions League club, your performances are going to have to be immaculate, and we're going to sell you for tens of millions and make a large profit on you. Bring it on. So we're going to see loads of really good performances and make a huge profit off the back of it. I'm all right with that.
And when we look at clubs like Brighton, who do exactly that.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was reading listening to the interviews of the Alkmaar manager, who was talking about the way he develops his squad. It's a churn. Yeah. You know, we bring players through, we get them to a certain point, then we know they're going to go to a bigger Dutch club or a bigger club in Europe or whatever. You know, and it's that philosophy, isn't it? That I think maybe that's the one thing we haven't had at West Ham United. We haven't had a strategy in place to be able to do that.
It makes you appealing as well, Stella. If you go to Alex Scott right now and say, look, come to West Ham, if you perform really well in a Champions League club once, you look at Declan Rice, we'll let you go. We're not going to stand in your way. You start to appeal to the youngsters that they see West Ham as a stepping stone. And it might be a bit harsh, but this is just a job to them. It's an offer of employment. That's all it is. And they see, if they look at West Ham as a club that I can go to, I can get into my international setup, I can earn decent wages in Premier League, I can play at a good competition, good level, big fan base, and eventually I'll get a Champions League club. Bring them on. That's exactly who I want to sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm of the same opinion. I think maybe that's why I said, the comment I made a moment ago about not being a one-man team, where we've kind of relied on, sort of certain players over the past, like the Di Canios, et cetera. And then when they're gone, it's like, oh shit, what do we do now? And you're absolutely right. When it comes to Declan, we shouldn't be in a position of saying, oh, what next? This you're right. This should have been planned for last season. Let's get on to this transfer, because we keep hearing different stories. Of course, at the beginning of last week, or whenever it was, when the window opened, we were all told, weren't we? It was 80 million plus 10. But apparently that was TalkSport, Jim White, who said that. And now it's transpired that it was only 60 million plus 15. Because when the club got the offer the other day of 75 million plus 15, everyone was getting out their calculators and going, hang on a minute.
Backwards here.
Yeah. I wonder if as the transfer window goes down to almost no days, it might go to about 12 million with plus
something like
5.
that.
I mean, we've talked about, do we have to sell? There is, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, in order to strengthen the squad, it is down to selling Declan Rice to probably get 3 players in, maybe 3 or 4 players in. And as I mentioned a moment ago, if for any reason we don't sell Declan Rice and we sell other players, we might be able to generate 30, 40 million, 50 million maybe, which might get you at best 2 players over the line at best. How do you feel about the way? I mean, I guess they're doing their business, aren't they, Arsenal? But does it leave a bad taste in the mouth in the way they're going 60 plus 15? Oh, all right, 75 plus 15. I mean, they know what we're after. We want that magical 100 million. We know it's not going to go much further than the 100 million. It might go to 105, maybe 110 with all the add-ons. But we want that magical 100 million because it's a psychological, isn't it? Thing, isn't it? We've sold a player for that figure.
I think Sullivan also wants to break Grealish's record as well.
Yeah.
So he can say, well, I got the biggest fee I ever received for an England player and stuff like that. So I think Sullivan will be hanging out for the 101 million. Once he gets that, you'll go. I think Arsenal have been taking the piss, quite frankly. I think their offers are, I think there's low ball and then they're just taking the mick. I think I've got no issues with a club offering less than what the club A wants. It makes sense. Why would you go in at their asking price? You just don't do that. But there's making a low offer, and then there's just taking a mickey, and I think they're doing the latter, to be honest with you. And it's got to the point, Style, actually, a week ago, and to be fair, even a couple of days ago, I didn't really care where Declan Rice went. I just wanted the most money for West Ham. If it was Man City, good. Man U, good. Arsenal, good. I don't care. Whoever pays the most, he goes there. That's all I'm interested about, because we've got to live without Declan Rice going forward, so we need as much money as possible. But I'll tell you what, I don't want him going to Arsenal now because of the way they've acted. I just can't stand it, to be honest with you. It's
leaving a really sour taste in the mouth, as if because I watched Gonzo's video the other day of saying that Arsenal have all the, holding all the cards. And I kind of get that, but I kind of think at the same time, I'm not so sure if that's really accurate. I get the reasons why Gonzo mentioned that. I understand that, but I think we don't have to be rushed into a sell, do we? Apart from the fact, of course, that we've got to improve the squad, but we will have quite a big quite a large chunk of the window open, or will we? How long is Arsenal going to drag this out for?
I hope this gets wrapped up quick, Style. It's not so much. It's missing potential targets. That's my concern. Not that anyone else is going to be after Polina for 50 million except us, really. We're in a one-horse race there. But if there is other players out there, particularly if this director of football comes in and he's got his eye on a couple of bargains, we're probably going to need to act quick. And if we need the funds to do that, we need the funds to do that. My biggest problem is that, you see Fulham demanding 60, 90 million, depending where you read and what you believe. But let's just say they're demanding 60 million, because I think there's ambitious and there's just dreamland stuff. Fulham are only doing that because they know we're going to have 90 to 100 million to spend. So, Polina to Brighton is probably 40 million, but to West Ham is 60 because they know we've got the money. And this is the problem, really. This is the problem with this transfer playing out public, and it's very public. Everything about it is very, very public. If the offers, when they're made, when they're being made, we know about the offers before West Ham know about the offers. We knew what the second bid was before David Sullivan had received the second bid. That's how public this is. And we knew immediately it was rejected because David Sullivan decided to tell everyone, I've rejected it straight away. I've emailed back saying no. So Sullivan told everyone. So it's a very public affair, this. So if we're aware of it, you can bet your bottom dollar Fulham are aware exactly how much money West Ham are ready to receive, and they're going to adjust the price for Polina accordingly. So they should. So the whole thing's turning a little bit ugly. It's getting a little bit political, and I do feel like we've had our pants pulled down a little bit. And while I understood what David Sullivan was doing the day, it was a bit soon, but I understood what he was doing going on TalkSport, announcing that Declan Rice is up for sale, essentially. He's trying to encourage a bidding war.
Yeah.
And Sullivan will only be justified doing that if a bidding war occurs. So if Man United and Man City now come to the table, what he did was correct. It was the right thing to do because now we've got bids coming in. But if there is no bidding war, he's going to look a little bit silly if Arsenal are the only team that actually makes official bids for Declan Rice because, well, what we're doing then, we're kind of stuck a little bit. It's just, I want it wrapped up quick still because I don't want it lingering on. And I want Moyes to be able to plan for next season. He can't do that while he's got Declan Rice at the club. You cannot plan for next season with Declan Rice. I think it's a very naive thing to do. I don't like the way that the season kicks off in the transfer window as well. So it's perfectly feasible. We could play 2 or 3 games and then Rice gets sold. I hate that. I hate that
really
rule.
That is really disruptive. Yeah,
it's a stupid rule because is Rice going to be the Declan Rice we know? Well,
if he knows he's off.
He's not going to do what Scott Parker did or Jermaine Defoe. He's not going to do Defoe and start getting sent off. He's not going to do that. But is he going to be committed knowing that he's possibly got a medical at Arsenal next week? I wouldn't blame him if he started ducking out of challenges. The geezer wants a move and he's made it very obvious and he's waited very patiently for it. And if West Ham aren't playing ball, I understand why he might start to get a little bit aggy about it. So, yeah, the sooner this is done, the better. So we can start getting our own players in so that when pre-season comes round, the new boys are there and we're ready to rock and roll because we've seen in the past bringing players in late in the window. You're into October before you start seeing them in the first team. You're 10 games into the season. We can't afford that. We've got the Europa League as well. We need the players here for the friendlies.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is the big concern. And of course, people are saying we can get a recurrence of what happened at the beginning of last season where, we got players in so late and then we were sort of playing catch up. And of course, bringing players in from abroad as well takes that bit longer. And I know people were mocking David Moyes in when he said it's going to take time for them to settle, etc. There is an element of truth there. Now,
100%.
From my understanding, he's apparently looking more at the domestic market than he is at sort of players from abroad. I think he wants the bulk of the players. But you're absolutely right. When it comes to sort of looking at the players that everybody wants, for example, Barnes, we know we know that he's a favourite, he's a firm target. But there are going to be other teams going in for him as well. And then I can't pronounce his surname, Gyökeres. Could be more suited to our style of football. Maybe he's the type of striker that Moyes is going to want. But I bet you bottom dollar, there's going to be other Premier League teams that are going to be looking at him as well. So it is a concern. But I think the Rice saga, it worries me. If it is only Arsenal that make a bid, and let's say for argument's sake they make another £5 million bid on top of what they've made to take it to 95 million, and nobody else comes in for him. What do you think West Ham United does? Do they stick to their guns and say, well, forget it, Arsenal, he's going nowhere? Or do we take that?
They'll take it. They'll take it eventually. I think 101 million. I'm convinced 101 million is the magic number.
Which will get it over the line.
And I don't think it's 101 million cash. I think it'll be 90 million plus 11 million of add-ons or something like that. So it's worth 101 million. And I think that's. I don't
know if you've seen that video knocking around where the guy says, "Here's our offer," and if Madeline McCann appears, it's another 5 million, and if this happens, it's another 5.
And if she's alive, another 5 million. I've seen it. I'll see it, Stel. I've seen it. I don't mind it.
Just to go off that for a moment, I don't know. Have you heard anything about Paqueta having broken his collarbone?
No, I've seen the rumor, but I think I've seen people say the rumor was started by like a certain fan base from North London that might have a little bit of aggro with the Declan Rice thing. I think they've possibly started the rumor he's broke his collarbone, but we'll have to wait and see.
All right, so we talked about Declan. I'm in agreement with you. Let's get it done and dusted sooner rather than later. I kind of very much the same as you, Joe. I hope Man City come in and just slap £100 million and a penny on the table and say, there you go. But we keep hearing Declan Rice doesn't want to go anywhere apart from Arsenal because it's still in London, because he's a young family, he doesn't want to travel and all that sort of stuff. So if the likes, I mean, this is where we have the advantage, because if the likes of Man United come in and offer us money plus players, or Man City come in, money plus players, or whatever the deal may be, we have a right to turn around and go, yes, don't we? As a selling
Man City
club.
or nothing, take your pick.
Yeah. And what happens then? I mean, what happens then? So let's say, for argument's sake, we've been offered, I don't know, 80 mil and Calvin Phillips, you know, to get it over the 100 mark. And West Ham United go, yeah, we accept that. Then it's down to the player and his agents or his father, you know, to either go and negotiate personal terms. What if they turn around and say no, Gio? What then?
I don't know. That if that happened, that's when Arsenal do hold all the cards, because
Will that force Arsenal to turn around and say, okay, well, they've offered this much, well, then we need to make sure, as you said,
no, but in your hypothetical situation, Rice rejects Man City, Arsenal would turn around and say, well, here's our bid of 90 million. He only wants to come to us. Yeah, take it. He's not going anywhere else. It doesn't matter if Man U come in with 100 million, he's going to reject it. So you have to take our 90, or you keep a player and we'll be back next summer and we'll get him for 60. So it's a difficult one. I think Declan Rice wants to go to Arsenal. It's just a belief. I don't know. It's just a belief. I just get a feeling. There's just far too much smoke. And it's happened for months. It's not even like it's recent. It's since Christmas we've been told that Arsenal is his number one choice. I get it. I get why he wants to go there. But could he be persuaded? I'll tell you what, if Declan Rice, let's just say Man City did come in for Declan Rice and Rice rejects Man City, fair bloody play. He better get the captain's armband when he rocks up at Arsenal, because that is some commitment. If you can turn down Man City to go to Arsenal, then you've got some belief in that project.
Well, yeah. And doesn't that then put a bit of a mockery on him saying, I want to play Champions League, I want to win? Because there's no guarantee anywhere. There's no guarantee he'll win Champions League, Arsenal, Man City, or even if he went to Barcelona and Real Madrid, whoever. There's never that guarantee. And I'm not disrespecting Arsenal, but for me, you put the word there. It's a project. It's a good project, and you can see that they've got good players, they've got young players, they've got a young squad, they've got a dynamic manager, etc. You can see that they'll be heading in the right direction, but it could be they could get lucky. They could win it next season. But to me, it's more like a 3 or 4 year project.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of remember, I'm old enough to remember, you know, Man United when Alex Ferguson was trying to win the Champions League, and it took him something like about 4 or 5 seasons, maybe 6 seasons before they reached the final and won it. You know, and you would argue he was being one of the best coaches we've ever had, you know, and I can't see Arteta in that same mold. So if Declan turns around to Man City and goes, no, thank you, does that make a mockery of his ambition?
I think what it would do, I'm going to side with Declan a little bit here. I think what that would do is show how much his family mean to him. I would just take it that he doesn't want to leave London, rather than he prefers Arsenal over Man City. Because I don't think Declan would believe Arsenal's got more chance of winning things than Man City. He knows it's Man City. But if he chooses Arsenal, I do think it's him picking family life, and fair play to him if he does that. The best thing, all we can do as West Ham fans still is hope that Man U and Man City get involved and start putting money on the table, and the bid starts going up, and he ends up where he ends up. It's just about getting the best deal for the club now, and then doing what we need to do to lessen the impact of losing Declan Rice as much as possible, and try and turn this negative into a bit of a positive, which is not easy, but it's possible.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to that then. You know, we've got we're hoping to hear the news, I don't know, maybe tomorrow or Friday, that this gentleman will finally be made technical director of West Ham United. Tim Steidten. He's got a very good record of the sort of players that he's recruited. He's either found or bought for clubs like Bayer Leverkusen, etc. Patrick Schick, Moussa Diaby, to name but a few. He's got a good track record, hasn't he?
It's incredibly impressive. I don't think we could get one much better, really. I know, like Paul Mitchell, and that's done really well too. But in regards to attracting them to West Ham, it feels like a coup. It does feel like a coup. I have worries over how much control he's going to get, but I would like to think somebody of that ilk and he was in demand. He's had talks with the likes of Chelsea and stuff.
Yeah.
If he's come here, I would expect he's been given reassurances that he's going to have full control over the transfers. And and this is my own theory, this is just a geo theory style. I actually think he's come in, not on the condition on the sale of Declan Rice, but basically told we're going to sell Declan Rice for 100. You're going to have 100 million to spend. That is a lot of money. If you're a director of football and you're good at what you do, you're rubbing, and you not only are you rubbing your hands, you're confident. You're going to. I expect him to swagger into Rush Green, knowing exactly who he's going to go get, because he only left Leverkusen in March. He's not been out of the game for 3 months. He's been out of the game. I expect him to know exactly who he wants at West Ham already, because Fabrizio Romano told us a week ago that this was done. It looks like he is going to be proven correct. So if we assume Fabrizio Romano was correct a week ago, which is it was agreed, it just hadn't been signed, in that week, I expect him to, and this is a week minimum, possibly even longer than that. I expect him to have gone away, evaluate the West Ham squad, and started deciding exactly who he's going to go chase as soon as he gets that job. Yeah. If he's announced tomorrow, Stel, I expect a bid going in on Friday for somebody.
Yeah,
I do,
and maybe Declan being sold on Friday as well.
Yeah, it might be as well. But honestly, no messing around. This guy has got to be backed. He's got a proven track record of it at 2 clubs now. But some of the players he's brought in are bordering on world class, and he's been buying champagne players with a Bucks Fizz budget sometimes as well. He's not even.
That's why I've got a smile on my face, Gio, because this is the positive side of it all.
It is. I'm excited. I'm really excited about this. If he's given control, and I mean complete control, if we back him, and not only that, David Moyes plays the players that gets purchased. That's the other issue. But should we do that, then this will be the best signing of the summer for West Ham. It won't be a player; it'll be him. For years, we've been crying out for this. And when we've done it half-arsed, whether it be Mario Huselos, whether it be Rob Newman. It's half-arsed. Head of recruitment is what they get told. They're not even director, head of recruitment. So you're in charge of the scouts, essentially. It's almost an insult, really. But now we're finally getting somebody in that not only is getting the job, but he's got the CV to back it up. I mean, we took Rob Newman in as a scout from Man City. It was a bit of a punt, and I actually think Rob Newman's done fine. I actually think our last summer, I think our transfer business was good. I don't understand the negativity towards Rob Newman.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
This guy, come on then, let's see it. Let's see these gems that you've got. Let's see these 5 million purchases that's going to be worth 30 million in a couple of years' time.
Well, this is it. This is exactly it. So it kind of goes back to what, we were talking, earlier in the show about losing Declan, how you're absolutely right. It's a big hole to fill. But if anyone can do that, it's got to be this guy, isn't it? It's got to be Steidten. He'll probably, I wouldn't be surprised, and what you've just said, I wouldn't be surprised if he's already identified a Declan replacement.
He should have one.
Yeah. And all the names that we keep hearing in the news, like Paulina, et cetera, I just wonder how far away those are compared to what Steidten, a list that Steidten might have.
Mate, I hope we don't see Paulina. I hope all this is just us making stuff up, and in the background in the last week I hope we've been working on his targets. There's no reason we shouldn't have been, even if he had it quite signed, there must have been to be honest, as part of the interview process, I would have expected David Sullivan to say to him, all right, hypothetically we gave you 50 million, what would you do with it? I would expect that as to be part of the recruitment. You can't just hire a guy with like no insight into his knowledge or insight into what his ambitions would be at West Ham. So I would expect almost a name or two to be thrown back at David Sullivan, and David said, "Oh, all right, okay, fair. I've never heard of him, but I'm going to go with it. Let me load up Football Manager.
5 million.
Yeah, let me load up Football Manager and see if he's any good, this geezer. But I expect him to turn up with a list, and I want to see us get kicked into action ASAP. I'm excited for him, but it's the West Hamitis comes in, am I confident he's going to be given control? Not really. Am I confident the players he brings in, Moyes is going to play? Not really.
Well, this is the elephant in the room, isn't it? Because we're going to get this technical director who's going to have his eye on the, he's got his finger on the pulse when it comes to the sort of players that we want to be getting. I would dare say he will have that conversation probably with Moyes and say, well, what is it you believe you need? Okay, fine. We'll get a winger, we'll get a midfielder, we'll get a central defender, we'll get a striker, blah, blah, blah. What system are you playing? All right, it's going to be that system. Fine. I will go. And what I'm hoping is that when it comes to him working closely with the manager, he's going to be identified. They may not necessarily be players that he would go out and get if he was running the team, but you would hope for the year that Moyes has got left, he will accommodate Moyes by bringing in the players to play Moyes' system. Still a win-win, though, isn't it?
It's a bit like the Tom Souček thing, isn't it? Remember, Moyes went to Jordan. I still remember the name, Jordan Miles, an analytics guy at West Ham. He said, we need a midfielder that does this, this, and this. He did his thing, went, here's your answer, Thomas Souček. And we went and got him. So Moyes probably never heard of him, but it worked in tangent. They worked together as a team to identify Thomas Souček, recruit Thomas Souček, and Moyes threw him straight in because it was sort of a Moyes pick, sort of wasn't a Moyes pick. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm excited for it, though. I really am. Could you click on that one? There's a big difference, right? It's a good comment, but it's a big difference.
Is this the comment? Or which comment?
Yeah. That's that one that's on your screen now. So we've still got the premium problem that comes with Declan Rice money. The difference is, instead of going for Polina, who goes from 50 to 60, we're going to go for a midfielder in the Bundesliga that's going to go from 10 to 14. I think there's a massive difference in terms of value there. So they can bump the price up, but it'll still be cheap
in comparison. Yeah. I mean, Polina's done well. Premier League, he's had a season in the Premier League, but I would rather we go and get players that this guy can find for us, and maybe only spend 50 million and bring, I don't know, 2 players in for that, or maybe spend 80 million, bring 4 players in for that. I don't think we're getting more than 4 players. I think we're getting a defender, we're getting a midfielder, maybe 2, we're getting an attacking winger, and we're getting a striker, at best. So it's not going to be a wholesale change, but if this guy is worth his salt, worth his money, he'll get all that for under 100 mil.
He is worth it, though. I don't think you can argue with what he's done at more so at Leverkusen, but even at Bremen, he still did well at Bremen. I know it's only a loan deal, but he took De Bruyne in on loan for them. Signed Serge Gnabry as well, and he went to Leverkusen and he smashed it there too. So he's proven. And I will say it now: if this don't work out, Tim Steidten don't work out, it's not because of him; it's because of West Ham.
Yeah,
it's like buying Gianluca Scamacca. You're buying a top player, and if that player don't work out, it's not the player, it's not him, it's not his ability. He's got the ability. It's us getting the best out of him. That's the problem.
Yeah,
and I'm going to apply that to technical director. He's good at what he does. He's showing it. So if it don't work at West Ham, it's because we've done something wrong. We've stopped him allowing to do what he wants to do at the football club.
And the sad part about that, Gio, is we've proven it over and over and again, haven't we? I remember the furore around Haller. He's no good. He's no good. He's doesn't run. He doesn't do what Antonio does. I remember sort of saying to Pete, saying on a regular basis, this is a really class striker that's going to prove it to us when he goes, which he's done. And now we've got Scamacca, who'll end up going back to Italy, and then he'll start smashing him in.
But there's always a reason, Stel. Haller's only playing well because he went to Ajax, crap league, Bundesliga, crap league. And it'll be the same as Scamacca go back to Italy, smash, and you get told, but Serie A doesn't count, crap league. There's always a reason as to why they do well elsewhere, but not at West Ham, rather than sometimes just looking at ourselves and go, perhaps we are the issue here. And I would argue Moyes shouldn't have to change the way he plays to accommodate Scamacca. The recruitment should be better so that the guy that we buy, Moyes can put in, and we continue playing the way we were. Bad transfer does not equal bad player. And
no, I agree.
And that's that one. So I think this summer we'll see a balance of Moisey purchases and new purchases. I think we might still see a Polina.
Yeah.
But there'll be a couple of venturous signings as well. So there'll be a couple of safe ones and a couple of maybe gambles with lesser money that the technical director is bringing in. I think we'll see a mix.
So given that, we've got to speak about Moyes, and as well as I do, Gio, all the things that were going on last season, and a lot of the fan base were very much anti-Moyes, and I was teetering. I tried to sort of like.
I was anti-Moyes still. I don't mind saying I'm one of them. Hello.
Well, no, that's all good, because I mean that's the good thing about being fans. We have all differing opinions, and I was swayed. I think it got me to the new year where I started to panic, and I finally said, yeah, maybe he should be gone. Look, he's got 1 year left. It's going to have to take a really, really poor start to the season for him to not see his year out. But let's another hypothetical. If we have a good season next season, let's finish 7th, finish 8th. We've done really well in Europa, maybe another semi-final. Does Moyes stay, or do we just say thank you and you've done everything that you've done?
I think there's more things for me rather than just end result, because end result, the season's just passed. I'm delighted with it. 14th and winning the cup. Give me that any. Oh, honestly, give me that any day. Right. So if it was just results, I mean, I would argue Moyes deserves a new contract today. He's just won us a trophy for the first time in 43 years. He deserves a new deal, in my opinion. But I don't want him to get one. But I can separate what I think is right and what I want to happen. It's two different things. And so for me, Moyes next season, while the results are obviously important, it's the style of play is one thing. I'm quite a romantic when it comes to football, and I don't necessarily want possession-based football for the sake of it. I just want entertaining football. I want to look forward to watching West Ham play. I can't really say that I was doing that last season. I wasn't looking forward to it. I watched it, and I always will, but it's just because it was West Ham, that's all. I was looking forward to watching Brighton play Aston Villa more than I was watching West Ham play, and that shouldn't be the case, but it was. So it's the style of play is the biggest factor for me, probably. The second is the hope of winning a trophy. Now, Moyes ticks that box because he's done it now. I can go into next season with hope that we will win the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, because Moyes has proven I will take cup competition seriously. So I can't fault him for that. But there's other things as well. And one of the other things is it feels like, first of all, we've got the technical director coming in. Can Moyes implement those signings? Well, we don't know yet, but past experiences would suggest he's a little bit hesitant if he's not picking the players. Said Ben Rama, for example, had to take a while. Nikola Vlasic, you can't tell me that was a Moyes signing. The guy got little opportunity and then got shipped out to Italy on loan. That doesn't feel like a Moyes signing. So history would suggest when someone interferes, Moyes doesn't like it. We're now bringing in a player with the sole purpose of interfering in the transfer. So can Moyes accommodate him? We don't know. Well, if you don't, then leave, because Moyes is a manager, and what we're doing now is we're now going down the route where we need a head coach. We don't need a manager now. There's two different things. We need a head coach. We need a De Zerbi that's hands off on you do the training ground, you do the match day, and that's all you do. You do not get involved in transfers. We have somebody that specialises in that, that's dealing with that.
This is the road to it, though, isn't it, Gio?
Yeah.
Like this is technical director in, and with Moyes having 1 year left, this is definitely the road towards. That should have happened.
But it's 1 foot in, 1 foot out style. We're going. The infrastructure of the club now looks like we need a head coach, but we've actually still got a manager. And this is where my frustration with Moyes a year ago was, if you're going to do this transition thing to more possession based, then get Souček out the team. I actually sell him. You've got a centre midfielder there that cannot play that style of football. So why is he still in the team? And it just didn't really make sense. And this is where it's the same with West Ham. I always say back him or sack him. When it comes to your manager, back him or get rid of him. And if you get to the point where you're not backing him anymore, you pretty much decided he's not your manager, then just get rid of him. And I am adamant, no one will change my mind on this, a manager in the last 12 months of his contract is a bloody dangerous thing still. It's hugely dangerous, because where's the incentive for David Moyes to play Mubama next season? There isn't one. He's not going to benefit. The next manager will benefit from Mubama. If Steidten brings in a 19-year-old with 20 appearances from the Bundesliga, a winger into the team, what's Moyes' incentive of playing him? He hasn't got one. He'll stick with Fornals and Ben Rama and Bowen. Why would he risk playing a youngster isn't up to speed yet. Moyes can't be. Moyes has got 12 months. He's got his eye on the next year, and that's it. I would argue that if this summer we changed manager, Bonner wouldn't be here next season.
No.
I'd expect Stein to come in and go, what? How old? How much wages? Oh, I can get a 21-year-old in just as good on half that wage, get rid of him, and we're going to go buy someone else in.
Yeah.
So
that's another interesting point. I'd forgotten about that. We've almost automatically given most of our elderly players an extended contract. Ogbonna has signed or was just about to sign.
He's been offered one.
He's been offered one. It looks like because he's on the retain list that Soufal will definitely get his extension.
Yep.
We've got Antonio's there
Fabianski.
anyway. Fabianski as well. Steidten will come in, and you're absolutely right. He'll look at that. Will he be horrified?
I hope so.
How many older players?
I want him to be. I want him to come in and go, what on earth is going on here? Why have you got 36-year-olds on 80 grand a week? What is going on? I want him to be embarrassed by the wages that we pay to some of the players. You know, if he looks at our recruitment and goes, now I'm putting my love for Danny Ings to one side here, clearly. I want him to look at the January transfer and go, hang on a minute, you spent 15 million and you gave 125 grand a week to a 31-year-old. What? I want him to be offended by that because we need to change things. What we're doing and what we have done is not sustainable. That's why we're on a watch list from UEFA for FFP. We have to watch what we're doing or we're going to get our fingers burnt pretty quickly. Something needs to change at the club.
Because the other thing of getting someone like Steidten in who's going to identify these younger players that are coming through for 15 million, 20, even 20 million, they're going to be on 20 grand a week, or 15 grand a week, you know, because they're playing in the Bundesliga or whatever, you know, and yes, of course, they'll have their money bumped up. But even if they get 35, 40 grand a week, as you've just rightly put, it's going to be half the money that one of our beloved 30-year-old players are getting.
Let's say we go after Ward Prowse. How much do you think he's going to demand from us?
Well, he's going to want 120 grand a week.
You would imagine so.
And he'll be 29 in November. So there'll be
4-year contract where we'll be signing. He'll be signing a 4-year deal. His biggest contract of his career. We'll be signing it as well. We need to change things, and this is where. So going back to the David Moyes point, I've gone off a tangent here, but there's more than just results for me. Can he incorporate the youngsters? We've got this what looks like a talented crop of 18, 19-year-olds at the club at the minute. Can he bring them into the first team? There's no evidence to suggest he can. I know he's handed out debuts to a lot of youngsters, but I'm sorry, but giving a player a game against on match day 6 when you've already won the Conference League group stages is not giving him an opportunity. That's giving him a debut for giving him the sake of a debut. That's not giving him a chance. The only youngster that's had a chance, and it's a bit of a chance, has been Mubama. You know, Ben Johnson's debut was under Pellegrini. Declan Rice's debut was under Slaven Bilic. There's not been one under David Moyes yet. Moyes has benefited from the previous managers' campaigns, and they had less time than what David Moyes has had.
Yeah,
we've not had a youngster that Moyes has brought through. He's developed them for sure, but he hasn't done the hard bit, which is put them in the deep end and nurture them through that early stages of their career. You know, I still remember Declan Rice getting hooked at halftime at Anfield, 3-0 down, get off the pitch. The manager had to cope with that. I remember Declan Rice when we played Arsenal. The cross came in and he ducked and went in. Joe Hart was like, "What? Hang on a minute." You know, we had to go through that process with Declan Rice to allow him to learn. No youngster's been given that.
Apart from Mbama, are there any other youngsters that you think have got that ability now to break through? I mean, we had Callum Marshall, who made his senior debut for Northern Ireland the other day. Unfortunate VAR goal disallowed.
A ludicrous VAR disallowed as well.
But is there? I mean, we've taken notice, haven't we, of the youngsters this in the season that's just gone. They've done absolutely superb. We understand what's happening now. We know that the likes of Oko Flex, Odebeko, Baptiste, which I'm really sad about, are leaving the club, etc. But that's to sort of be able to push through the under 18s into the under 21s. Is there anyone that's caught your eye that you would say, do you know what? Apart from Mbama, you know, I know we had Ollie Scarles earlier in the season, etc. But ironically, there have been much better players. With the greatest of respect to Skulls, I think he's a great prospect. But when we were looking at watching the sort of the semi-final of the under-18s FA Cup and the final, etc., other players were shining, like the under-21s Kadua, the under-18, sorry, captain, and other players. Is there anybody that you think maybe under a different manager that could possibly
under a different manager? Click on Garino's comment. Garino's saying the same one as me, the top one. George Earthy, I think he looks
Earthy, yeah.
He looks class. You know, when you watch a player, I always say, you know, sometimes you'll know what this is like style. Doing YouTube, you get this all the time. You'll say, oh, I like a player. There's always one comment. How many times have you watched him? Do you know sometimes you only need to watch a player 3-4 times to know he's a damn good player. To see somebody's dribbling ability, you don't need to watch him 10 times to realize he's good at dribbling. You can see it very, very quickly that he's good at dribbling. And when I saw George Earthy for the first time was in the last 16 of the Youth Cup when they played Stoke, and I went to the game and we won 5-0, maybe 5-1, whatever. We thumped Stoke anyway. Oh my word, he was just cruising around the pitch. It was just effortless. The ball was sticking to his feet. He was dropping his shoulder. His passing was fantastic. And I was thoroughly enjoying it. It was like watching like mini Lanzini or something. I was just thoroughly enjoying it. And then this thought process came over me. I thought, he's never going to get a game in David Moyes' team. I thought, he's just, you're not, while I'm enjoying watching you, mate, you're never going to play for West Ham with David Moyes as manager. Because when West Ham were out of possession, he would walk back. But he was able to, in the team, the way they'd set up, the way the under-18s worked, he was able to walk back.
He was allowed to do that.
Yeah, because he was so damn good on the ball and everything was going through him. And I just thought, you're never going to succeed under Moyes. I think the two players that stood out the most for me that I think would succeed under David Moyes is two centre midfielders in Lewis Orford and Patrick Kelly. They're the two I thought hard-working, not afraid to put their foot in, neat and tidy on the ball. I thought they'd get a chance under David Moyes, but I thought Earthy, who's the one that stood out for me, I thought he's just leave, mate, just go somewhere else, because we've seen too many youngsters at 17 look like they're going to make it at West Ham, and come 21, they're still here, and they've not had a sniff of a first team. And all these players can't be good enough. There's an issue with our player development. There is. We've been bringing in youngsters that look like they're the next best thing. You've just mentioned a couple of them, Mipo Debeko, Armstrong Uncle Fight. We can't bring in these players and they all turn out to be rubbish. Our success rate is either alarmingly shocking at 0%, or there's a problem with our player development. It might be both. But either we're crap at recruiting youngsters or we're crap at developing them. It's one of the two. And I think it's the latter.
Here's the irony. We don't seem to be crap at recruiting the youngsters, because I remember when we got Odubeko, the story was he was on Man United's books, and Man United were desperate to keep him. And he decided to come to us. Okoflex was much in demand.
And Ekwa. Chelsea did not want to lose Ekwa.
Yeah.
They didn't want to lose him. But we pinched him.
Yeah, we did. And I think you're right. I mean, I kind of, again, I try to sort of see things from Moyes' perspective, and think, I understand that he doesn't want to risk players. Sometimes you put a young player in, something goes wrong, they may not recover from that. I'll never forget Odubeko's, was it his second game? I think he came on in the dying minutes of one game, and then he came on during the Man United FA Cup game, and the poor lad was taken off. He was brought on as a sub, and he was taken. And I remember him being interviewed, and he looked absolutely mortified, like they had the life sucked out of him. And when that happens,
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a little secret. So you probably know this, but I'm not afraid to disclose it. I know somebody very close to Jesse Lingard. So when it comes to in the know stuff, I know nothing. But the Jesse Lingard stuff, I was actually clued up on. I had a really good contact with the Jesse Lingard thing. And the person that was really close to Jesse Lingard was also really close to Mipo Odubeko. And they were livid when Odubeko was subbed off. They basically just said it killed him. It's killed him as a player completely, and he's never really had a chance. And when they questioned Sullivan about it, Sullivan said, oh, no, he's not going to get a chance here. So I was like, well, why have you bought him then? Why have we took Odubeko to your club? And then the chairman's telling them he's not going to get a chance. And he's like, oh, it's even the manager that's saying it. It's the flipping chairman that's saying Odubeko's not going to get a chance. So they were just baffled. They were completely baffled by the fact that West Ham wanted Odubeko lured him, and then basically, nah, he's not getting an opportunity. So they've basically given up on what they gave. Like, Odebecke could have done more. You know, he went to Port Vale alone and did nothing. It's not just the club, but I think after that Man U thing, I think there's a case of just get him out of West Ham ASAP.
Yeah, yeah. What a shame. What a shame, because he was, I mean, I know we always hear this, you know, meant to be the next big thing, the next big thing, etc. But there was so much. I remember it was quite a big deal for us to have got him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But such a shame. I mean, the whole Moyes thing, it's really you know, I've seen some of the comments, and sorry I haven't been able to respond to them or put all of them up, but I've seen a lot of people saying more or less what you've said. Yes, thank you, Moyes, but you know, time, you know, we don't want to see another season.
I'm still in that boat still. I will do a video about it. I'll be honest with you. The one thing I hate about YouTubers, not West Ham YouTuber, football YouTube, just in general YouTuber, there's nothing worse than clicking on a video and someone says, I didn't want to make this video, but I'm like, well, don't do it then. You've chose to record it, you've chose to edit it, you've chose to upload it, you've chose to publish it. There's 4 times you could have stopped doing this video, but you've done it. So you've chose to do it, right? So I've always been like, if I don't want to make a video, I'm not going to make one. Right? Yeah. I have complete editorial control. So for the last 2 weeks, I'm not wanting to do a video about David Moyes because I'm enjoying the fact that we won the Conference League. I'm just, I've been feeling good. I've been enjoying it. And if I do a video specifically about David Moyes, there's going to be negativity. There's going to be negative. It's going to be more negative than positive, because my feeling at present is I would still like him to have left after winning that trophy.
Yeah.
And I will do the video in interest of balance and honesty and opinions, and it's what we do. But I've put it off on purpose for the last 2 weeks because I've just enjoyed the feel-good factor.
Well, I agree.
I'm still in that camp.
I've done the same. I've done the same of not wanting, because I don't want to, because I've got a lot of viewers that, you know, really sort of, they know where I've stood throughout the season, etc. And I don't want to be that. It's the one difficult thing in doing YouTube is trying to be balanced in your, you know, I think you do it very well. I think when you talk about something, you show a lot of logic in what you say. I don't have that same sort of logic. Sometimes I speak too much from, rather than a logical sense, like in the heart, and you know, and sort of, he's won
Gonzo does that. Gonzo can't do that. Gonzo struggles to separate what he wants to happen to what he thinks will happen. I find it very easy, to be honest with you. I mean, I find it simple to put what I want to one side and focus on a prediction. But the problem is it gets confused in comments. So when I do a video saying I think Moyes deserves a new contract, which I stand by, people are like, "Oh, you changed your tune." I'm like, "No, I haven't. I still don't want Moyes here."
From a logical perspective as what's happened.
Yeah. So it can actually be a disadvantage doing that. It can actually cause problems for comments. But they're the ones that I know just haven't watched the video. They've seen the title and thought, I'm going to respond to that. And because I put in the most obvious, I hate doing disclaimers, but I put in the biggest ones possible sometimes. And even then, that's still, so I know they haven't watched the video, but you can lead a horse to water and all that.
Here's a good question. Would a technical director end up having responsibility for, that's an interesting question. They don't really, did they get involved in that? Or they have a say?
He employed Xabi Alonso, or he was heavily involved in the employment of Xabi Alonso at Bayer Leverkusen. I'll be honest with you, Stel. I'm secretly hoping that that's our next manager.
I've heard that. It may have been. Have you done a video?
No, I haven't. I haven't said it. This is the first time I'm saying it. I'm secretly hoping. I watch German football. I do watch German football. It's the only other league I watch. Premier League, Championship, a bit of Scottish Premiership, and a bit of the Bundesliga. I don't watch French, Italian, or Spanish. I don't have time, so I watch the Bundesliga. And Alonso plays good football at Leverkusen, and he's done well. Really young as a manager as well, and he must have some sort of working relationship with Steidten. He must have. So it just makes sense, doesn't it?
You're talking a year ahead, aren't you? Or maybe.
But it makes sense. Just leave him to do another year because he's still new as a manager. Leave him in Bundesliga for another year. Let Steidten get things in place and almost recruit for Xabi Alonso being the manager, so that when he rocks up, there's 3 players that's had a year at West Ham already that he knows Alonso will use and will work with next season. I'm hoping that he could be Moyes' replacement, but traditionally he should get involved. Whether he's allowed to or not at West Ham, I don't know, because Martin Noble's going to have to also let him be the one that we know Noble's going to take hands off with the player recruitment, or we expect so, but doesn't mean he's going to be hands off with the manager recruitment. Noble might see. I still want to know how we found this man, because I do not believe for one second David Sullivan has appointed him. Sullivan does not know who managers are. Well, there's no way he knows a technical director from the Bund. Not a chance. Still, no chance. Sullivan doesn't know the third top goal scorer in the championship. There's no way he knows the technical directors of the Bundesliga. Not a chance. There's no
my understanding, and Sean told me this, is that he put the feelers out. He asked people to find him a technical director. Because look, you're absolutely right. David Sullivan wouldn't know a technical director if he bumped into him.
No, not a chance. That's why I've been shocked. I've been pleasantly surprised. I thought, well, who's doing this then? Because it's definitely not David Sullivan.
Let's not forget he hasn't signed yet, or that, as far as we know. I mean, we're expecting the announcement to come out, but and I do agree with you. I think it's been a long time coming. I don't know, director of football, technical director. I don't care what you want to call them. We need that. We need that layer, don't we? So it almost doesn't matter what manager's in. Like you said, the manager should become a coach. So it doesn't matter who coaches the team. That technical director will be the ongoing stability of the club for the future. It's something to look forward to. But we've got this season to get through. Or no, we've got this transfer window to get through before we do get anything.
Yeah, I'll be more excited if he's announced in the next day or two. I'll start to get excited about the transfer window. It will make that big an impact on me, but I'm hoping he's given full control. But because of his CV, I just don't see him coming to us without promises of some sort, and that's responsibility and money. He's not going to come with 10 million to spend, is he? Why would he do that? It's a stupid thing for him. His stock's high at the minute. Coming to West Ham and not doing very well, he's damaged goods then.
Maybe they have sold him that vision of, look, there's a year of transition happening. Moyes is still here. We've got to make sure that we back him for the next season. But then your world's your oyster. Maybe that's what's been sold. This is a 5-year project or whatever they may have said to him, and maybe that's what he's been sold on. Because you're absolutely right. He's got. I think you said it. I think Chelsea were interested in him. I think,
and that's from him. Steidten confirmed he had talks with Chelsea. Whereas Man United, Liverpool, and Tottenham have all been linked to him.
Okay.
But it's paper talk. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. But Steidten himself confirmed he spoke with Chelsea after leaving Leverkusen, and he's picked West Ham. There's obviously a reason. The one thing West Ham do is offer cash incentives. Moyes gets a big bonus for keeping us up. Karen Brady gets a huge bonus for turning up to work. We can be quite bonus incentives. So I'm hoping that he's got some sort of incentive there based on player sales or something. I don't know. There's something. There's a reason we've managed to get him, and I don't know what it is, because I don't believe he's picked West Ham over all these other clubs just because it's West Ham. There's something that swung it for him, and I'm a little bit not wary. I'm almost excited, but even with that's why I think it's Declan Rice money. It has to be. What else can it be? Full control and 100 million to spend.
That's a good start, isn't it? That's a good start. And then, if he can get 4 players in for that 100 million, and then in a year's time, 2 of those players are worth 50 million each, he's got his next budget for the following season and so on. Yeah.
So it's going to require a change of mentality. But if we do it, we can be a success with him.
Yeah. Gio, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've done over an hour. Thank you, mate, for coming on.
Anytime.
No, it's been really good. It's been quite enlightening as well, and I really appreciate it. Look, people, I know it's a live show, and I normally get into the chat, etc. So I do apologise for that. But we've got an expert here talking about West Ham. So
that's not me. I did not say that.
No, I'm talking about me.
Superb. There we go. Brilliant.
No, but seriously, really appreciate it, and hopefully come back on again soon.
Oh yeah, of course I will. Yeah, of course.
Cheers, mate. Much appreciated. Right, people, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Much appreciated. I don't have an end video, so it's just going to go off. So really appreciate you watching. It was all on the spur of the moment. So thanks for watching. I'll be back again very soon.